And if I lose liberty, then it takes away the basic reason for living.
So what is
if you're the sort of person who doesn't mind about having any liberty, provided you've got a house and food coming to you and you will do what you're told to do, then perhaps you won't mind. I suppose it's the difference between being born free and living life like an animal at the zoo in a cage.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is the Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. From time to time, I like to do a little piece which is not anything from the general media, be it mainstream or otherwise. This piece I entitle US-Canada Border. Now, recently I crossed over from socialist Canada, where I reside, into the United States for a day trip, a shopping expedition. I had no idea what was awaiting me on my return. First, a little background. Where I live, not to be too precise, is bordering with upstate northern New York. Now, we often, in the recent past, crossed over for a day trip to enjoy the wealth of choice not afforded to us in Canada. The last occasion was about 6 months ago. The reason being for such a long gap was simple. The Canadian dollar has been on a continuing nosedive ever since the Trudeau regime has been in office, so we have of late avoided making so many trips, by choice limiting those items that we could not readily purchase either in a store here or online. Anyway, back to the commentary. While we were down in the States, we went to a few local haunts like Sam's Club, Harbour Freight, a decent Walmart, unlike the Canadian one, and a few other little shops. We had lunch out, nothing special. It was a Wendy's actually. Of course, we bought gas. Why would any respecting Canadian not buy gas, as we're paying over $6 a gallon currently in our province? A lot of that price is caused by local sales tax and the latest incarnation, the unconstitutional carbon dioxide tax, thanks to 57 Genders Trudeau. As I was saying, when we returned to the border later on in the day, about 4 p.m, that Saturday, now bearing in mind it was 6 months ago that we last visited, and at the time we did get hit with taxes, but we were expecting that because we were only out of the country for a day and we spent close on $600, which was a lot to us. So we expected to get hit. So we figured this time, as we were spending far less, we had a 50-50 chance. But when we got there, we were presented with the usual fake government greeting. Hello, bonjour. That's French for hello, I think. But didn't I just leave a country that spoke English? Oh well. I always say to these people, hey, how you doing? Just to annoy these feds. How long have you been away from the country? Just today. Any fruits or vegetables? No. Any cigarettes, alcohol or tobacco? No. Any meat or dairy products? Yes. We handed in our slip, which totaled about $350, which was groceries and other products. And then we were asked, any cannabis or cannabis products? No. Now, you have to bear in mind that it's legal in Canada, but why would we do that? Now, the strange thing there is, and this is a government thing, that it's legal in Canada, but it's illegal to bring it into Canada. Only a government could come up with a stupid concept like that. Anyway, so we were hoping at this point that as the amount was quite low, that we had a good chance of just sailing through. Fat chance. Please pull over to aisle B. So we thought to ourselves, here we go again. Now at this point, when this sort of thing happens, I usually make a sarcastic comment, but my wife beat me to it this time. Now I can't recall exactly what it was, but it was definitely sarcastic. We pulled over to this palatial multi-storey building, which had some 20 to 30 official government border cars and people wandering around with sidearms. Oh, I forgot to mention, we were also asked whether we had any guns. That's a no-no in Canada because only evil Americans have guns. Canadians aren't allowed. But there we were, being surrounded in the general vicinity by at least 10 border folk with firearms. But I digress. We park up and get out of our car. At this point, I have to point out that there were 3 cars there, including ourselves, and one was from Pennsylvania. The other one was from Ontario. So as we walked past the Canadian, I just muttered out to him, "Welcome to Trudeau land." He smiled back at me knowingly, but nervously at the same time, not sure whether he should acknowledge my comment openly. We walk into this fancy building with art on the walls, TV screens, banks of computers, at least 10 other people I could see doing God knows what. A whole line of seats ready to seat the unexpected visitors, not realizing their fate. To give you some idea of the size of the building, the ceiling must have been at least 40 feet high, with fancy floors, etc., etc. You get the picture. All deliberately done, I believe, to make you feel small and insignificant. We were ushered up to a counter like a naughty schoolboy who's been sent to see the headmaster. Our sin was twofold. First, we left the motherland. That was bad enough. But second, we had brought goods that were not on the approved list, so we had to be punished. So we were charged another $50 Canadian on goods we had already paid New York state taxes on. We were shocked. My wife was livid, but kept it to herself. I sat on the seat, one of those in that long line of potential victims or victims-to-be. Oh, by the way, I looked up on Google. They're not showing the new building, they're showing the previous structure, which was very modest in comparison with this behemoth. But also, we were the only ones in the whole of this place Saturday afternoon. So while I was sitting there thinking to myself, I wondered, no wonder they stopped us. I guess we were lucky they didn't impound the car. I felt like a criminal in that place. We both left the building with a very sour taste in our mouths. My wife was absolutely livid. What was the point in coming down, she said. I guess we know why there were so few Ontario-plated cars in the parking lot, she said. Yes, I said. Well, I'm not sure we're going to be coming down again, she continued. That's the point, I said. That's how the Liberal communists want you to respond. They don't want you crossing the border and buying merchandise in America. However, it does beg the question, doesn't it? Why, if they don't want us leaving the motherland, why have they spent what must be hundreds of millions of dollars on this massive gargantuan expansion if they don't want anyone bringing anything in? These are very well-paid federal jobs created out of nowhere for nowhere. It makes you wonder how much all of this is costing Canadian taxpayers. We don't need it. My comment is, we don't want it. This is crap. Crap created by left-wing liberal communists who want to drive a great big wedge between us and our neighbours to the south. If you are like me and sick and tired of this crap, let them know. Liberals have zero interest in Canada growing in prosperity. Their plans are very different and nothing but evil. Their plan, actually, is simple, to take us back to the Stone Age. But it's worse than that, because we won't even be allowed to burn wood. Their brilliant ideas rely on solar and wind, all of which comes from abroad. We don't make any of that stuff. So to maintain our energy grid in Canada means that Canadians would rely solely on imported products for our basic infrastructure. Brilliant. They never tell you that. Where do you think those great big batteries come from in those electric cars? What do you think's going to happen to them when they need to be replaced? Not to mention the cost. Have you ever seen one of those Formula One cars when they're in an accident? You can't touch them because they're not safe. Can you imagine a mass incident on the highway where all electric cars were involved? Someone would be killed touching one of those cars. And someone would also be dying or die waiting to receive treatment while the vehicle was made safe to handle. These lefties have too much power and control over our lives. It is way past time that we Canadians took back that power. We don't want windmills everywhere. We don't want solar farms everywhere. And you don't have to have them. And having said that, it doesn't matter which party's in power. They all have the same nutball agenda. Climate change, which is costing you and costing me our lives for nothing. Time for Canadians to take back control of our country and put Canadians first and foremost. Canada needs a sensible and sustainable policy that makes sense for all of us, not just for a few left-wing elite who live in urban environments. I have since discovered that Trudeau has used an excuse, that of President Trump putting tariffs on Canadian steel, to put massive new tariffs, and tariffs is a code word for taxes, on the whole range of goods. You won't believe the range of goods that they're taxing. I will put links to these documents showing it in detail, but I'm going to highlight just a few items and show how petty and small this government is. Here's part of that list. There's 3 tables. One is purely dedicated to steel products, and it's a massive list of all sorts of steel that you couldn't possibly think of. Sheets, ingots, plated, non-plated, wire, different finishes, alloys. Ridiculous. Table 2 also covers aluminum products. It also covers doors and parts thereof used in Canadian manufacture. Also covers things like aluminum reservoir tanks, vats, and any sort of containers other than compressed or liquefied gas. Collapsed tubular containers, aerosol containers, table and kitchenware, sanitary ware, nails, tacks, staples, cloth, cups, fish egg incubators, pigeon countermark leg bands. Now, at the bottom of this list is a red border, and there's several items on there which are being excluded. These excluded items are inflatable boats, sailboats, with or without auxiliary motors, motorboats other than outboard motorboats, other vessels for pleasure, outboard motorboats. And then we get to table 3. This is a very long list of things that are terribly evil being imported from the United States and must have, quote, tariffs on them. Yogurt, coffee, maple sugar, licorice, chocolate, cucumbers, strawberry jam, soy sauce, tomato ketchup, whiskies, hair lacquers, organic surface active products, candles, insecticides, fungicides, herbicides, sacks and bags, tableware, plywood, all sorts of different plywood in case you try and sneak it through, toilet paper, tablecloths. Here's a very evil one in case you think about doing this. Printed or illustrated postcards, printed cards, personal greetings, messages, announcements, whether or not illustrated, with or without envelopes or trimmings. Oh gosh, the world will stop revolving. And then you come to dishwashing machines, mowers, mattresses, pillows, playing cards. And here's the one which is the most evil of all. Ballpoint pens. You cannot possibly import into Canada a ballpoint pen. The Canadian economy will stop if you bring in a ballpoint pen. These liberal communists are completely out of control, and so is the federal government of Canada completely out of control. I put it to you that more than 50% of these people working for the federal government of Canada should be fired. We don't need them. We don't need regulations like this. Banning playing cards, mattresses, sleeping bags. What the heck are we coming to? What the heck are we coming to? And that applies to any government, any party that bans things like this. Lists like this. You go to the links that I will put up that are from a government website. These things are banned. You will be taxed on them. Proud, glorious and free? My ass. You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab and email. We're also on Spotify. Just go to the podcast section and type Canadian Politics with a twist and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on these links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio. That's EHRADIO, A Radio, and click on the like button. And you can hear a review of our morning moments on WHBJ-DB, News Talk Radio on Spreaker.com. Join us and many others. And you can find all our podcasts and morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com. Click on the Morning Moments tab.